You're watching Field Guide to the Unknown, where mystery meets the unexplained.
July 14th, 1952. A calm, clear night over the eastern seaboard of the United States. For Captain William B. Nash and First Officer William H. Fortenberry, it was a routine flight. They were seasoned pilots, with thousands of hours of experience between them, flying a Pan American DC-4 passenger plane from New York to Miami. But what they were about to witness in the skies over the Chesapeake Bay would defy all logic, challenge their understanding of aerodynamics, and become one of the most credible and baffling UFO sightings in American history. This is the story of two commercial airline pilots who came face to face with technology that, even today, seems to belong to another world. At 8:12 p.m., as they flew at 8,000 feet near Norfolk, Virginia, a startling sight appeared to their left. 6 fiery red-orange objects, glowing with an intensity that made them stand out against the twilight sky. They were circular, like discs, and flying in a tight, military-like formation. Captain Nash would later report that the objects were not just fast, they were moving at a speed he couldn't comprehend. He estimated it to be in the thousands of miles per hour. As the objects drew closer, the pilots could see that they were distinct, circular craft, holding a perfect formation. Then, something incredible happened. The lead object in the formation seemed to slightly slow down, and one of the discs behind it almost overran it. It was a momentary lapse, a brief imperfection that, to Captain Nash, looked almost like a human error in judgment. This detail suggested the objects were not just on a fixed trajectory, but were being individually controlled. As the formation streaked towards their airliner, the pilots braced for a potential collision. But just as they seemed about to intercept, the 6 objects did something that defied the laws of physics. They abruptly shot forward, passed directly underneath the DC-4, and then, in perfect unison, flipped on their edges, appearing as thin as a coin. A moment later, they flipped back to their disc shape and darted off at a sharp angle, climbing into the sky. But the show wasn't over. As the pilots watched in disbelief, 2 more identical objects shot out from the west and joined the original 6. The now 8 objects formed a single line, and then, one by one, their brilliant red lights blinked out, as if a switch had been thrown. The sky was dark for a few moments, and then the lights reappeared, even brighter than before, as the objects climbed in a steep ascent and vanished into the vastness of space. Captain Nash and First Officer Fortenberry were left in stunned silence, their minds racing to comprehend what they had just seen. Dumbfounded, the first thing the pilots did was check their instruments. Everything was normal. They checked with each other, confirming they had both seen the same thing. They immediately radioed the control tower at Norfolk, their voices filled with a mix of professional calm and utter bewilderment. They had to report it, even if it sounded insane. Upon landing, Captain Nash and First Officer Fortenberry were met by military intelligence officers. They were interrogated separately, and their stories were meticulously compared. Both pilots, without any collaboration, gave nearly identical, detailed accounts of the incident. This consistency deeply impressed the investigators, and they weren't the only ones. The Air Force quickly discovered that 7 other credible witnesses had reported seeing similar objects in the same area, at around the same time. One witness on the ground saw 7 or 8 objects, describing them as white, yellow, and red. A naval officer reported seeing 8 red lights flying in a straight line before disappearing. Most notably, just 2 evenings later, a NASA aerodynamicist from the Langley Research Center, Paul R. Hill, observed similar objects himself. This wasn't an isolated event. It was a local flap of sightings by credible observers. The most staggering aspect of the Nash-Fortenberry sighting was the speed of the objects. Based on their flight path and the time it took them to cover the distance, Captain Nash, an experienced pilot, made a conservative estimate. He calculated the objects were traveling at an astonishing 12,000 miles per hour. In 1952, the fastest jets in the world struggled to break 700 miles per hour. The technology on display was simply beyond anything known to exist. The Air Force, as was standard procedure, tried to find a conventional explanation. Could they have been meteors? No, meteors don't fly in formation, make sharp turns, and change speed. Were they weather balloons? Not at that speed, and balloons can't perform those kinds of maneuvers. Were there secret military aircraft? The pilots themselves were well trained. They knew the capabilities of conventional aircraft. What they saw was something entirely different. What makes this case so compelling is the credibility of the witnesses. Captain Nash and First Officer Fortenberry were not amateurs. They were highly respected commercial airline pilots responsible for the lives of their passengers. They had everything to lose and nothing to gain by reporting such a fantastic story. Their detailed, sober account has made this one of the most enduring and convincing cases in the annals of UFO investigation. So what did Captain Nash and First Officer Fortenberry see that night over the Chesapeake Bay? 8 intelligently controlled, disc-shaped objects, flying in perfect formation at speeds and with a maneuverability that remained mind-boggling to this day. Despite a thorough investigation, The Air Force could not identify the objects, and the case remains officially unexplained. The Nash-Fortenberry sighting is a classic for a reason. It's a case with multiple, credible witnesses, corroborating reports, and a detailed description of technology that seems to defy our understanding of the possible. It forces us to ask, if they weren't ours, and they weren't from this world, then who was flying them?
Thanks for exploring the unknown with us. Like, comment, and subscribe for more strange stories from the shadows.